Erev Tov, everyone. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States. Well, it is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States. Here in the diaspora, this is the House of Seven Beggars. Therefore, it must be the Old Rabbis Discuss with yours truly, Rabbi A and Rabbi A squared. And we'll bring Rabbi A on right now. Let me turn on his microphone. We'll turn that off first, and we'll find it. There it is, and you are on.
Erev Tov, everybody. I hope you had a good Pesach. The last time we were talking about the anti-Semitism, we stopped at Germany. So this evening we are going to continue with the anti-Semitism growing in Germany. After the First Crusade, 100 Jews were killed by the Rheinfleisch Knights in 1298. The Jews were also subjected to attacks during the Shepherds' Crusade in 1251 and 1320. In the 1330s, Jews were assaulted by the Arnleder, led by Arnold von Uysingheim, starting in 1336, in Franconia, and subsequently by John Zimberlin during the 1338 and 1398 in Alsace, who attacked more than 100 Jewish communities. Wow. Following these crusades, Jews were subjected to expulsions, including in 1290 by banishing of all the English Jews. In 1396, 100,000 Jews were expelled from France, and in 1421, thousands were expelled from Austria. Many of those Jews expelled fled to Poland. Unfortunately, you know what happened. Second World War. As the Black Death plague swept across Europe in the mid-14th century, annihilating more than half of the populations, Jews were often became scapegoats. Rumors spread that they had caused this epidemic by deliberately poisoning the wells, an accusation that appeared before in 1321, which was the leper scare. Hundreds of Jewish communities were destroyed by the ensuing hatred and violence. Pope Clement VI tried to protect the Jews by a papal bull dated July the 6th, 1348, and by an additional bull soon afterwards. But several months later, 900 Jews were burned alive in Strasbourg, where the plague had not yet affected the city. The Jews of Prague were attacked on Easter of 1389, and the massacres of 1391 marked the decline of the Golden Age for the Spanish Jewry. Any questions?
Now, you said that in 12 something that the Jews were expelled from Great Britain, right?
In 1290, they were banished from the English Jews
Yeah,
were banished.
that would have been under Longshanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then in 1396, 100,000 Jews were expelled from France, and in 1421, thousands were expelled from Austria, and most of these Jews, like I said, ran to Poland, which they had no choice, but that was a big mistake.
Yeah, well, it's not like there was much choice on where to go.
That's what I said. There was not much choice. Unfortunately, when the Germans came in, there was a lot of Jews in Poland.
Right, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay, so
they were doing fairly well in Italy at that point.
there was not much. There was not much. The only time when it started, problems with the Jews in Italy was when the Nazis came in and what's his name?
Mussolini.
Mussolini came in and did the same thing to the Jews. He was Hitler's best friend. So
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. Well,
so
actually, he was a predecessor to. He was actually in power prior to Hitler coming into power,
Yes.
and many of the Nazi uh, concepts and stuff that they implemented actually they got from Mussolini.
True. From the 9th century onwards, the medieval Islamic world, now we're into the Islamic world, imposed dhimmi, which is a status of both Christian and Jews minorities. Nevertheless, Jews were allowed more freedom in the Muslim world to practice their religion than the Christians were. Jewish communities in Spain thrived under the tolerant Muslim rule, which
Yeah,
was
that
during
now,
the Spanish,
yeah, now
Spanish
that
That's
needs
fine.
some clarification because I mean they flourished during the Umayyad caliphdom, but as
Well,
the as the
they grew, they got good during the Spanish Golden Age, and Cordova became the center of Jewish culture, which didn't last very long.
well, that's the thing because as the Umayyad caliphdom started to break apart and fall back, other caliphdoms started to coming in and dividing up Spain, well, which would become Spain,
Well,
and
this is when the Almoravides came in from North Africa in the 11th centuries, and they took on the Christians and the Jews. As part of this repression, there were pogroms against the Jews in Cordova in 1011 and in Granada in 1066. The Almohads, who by 1147 had taken control of most of Spain and the Andalusian territories, they took a less tolerant view, still treated the dhimmis harshly. Faced with a choice of either death or conversion, many Jews and Christians took a third opinion if they could and fled. Some, one of the biggest Jews to ever live there, fled, which was Maimonides.
Maimonides, yeah.
He went east to more tolerant Muslim lands, while others went northward to settle into the growing Christian kingdoms. At certain times in the Middle Ages, in Egypt, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, decrees ordering the destruction of synagogues were enacted. Jews were forced either to convert to Islam or face death in part of Yemen, Morocco. In Baghdad, 6,000 Jews were killed by a Muslim mob during the 1033 Fez massacre. There were further massacres in Fez in 1276, 1465, and in Marrakesh 1146 and 1232. Restrictions upon Jewish occupations were imposed by Christian authorities. Local rulers and church officials closed many professions to Jews, pushing them into marginal roles considered socially inferior, such as tax and rent collecting and money lending.
Yep. Well, that was that was a pretty favorite thing is to get the Jews into money lending, and
Yeah,
then when you needed money for wars and stuff like that, you basically took the money away from them, and I mean, what were they
never
going to
gave it
do?
back.
Yeah, never pay it back. Yeah,
Yeah, well, this is why the Catholic doctrine at that time held that lending money for interest was a sin,
right.
and it was an occupation forbidden to Christians. Not being subject to this restriction insofar as loans to non-Jews were concerned, Jews made this business their own. Despite possible criticism of usury in the Torah and later sections of the Hebrew Bible. Unfortunately, this led to many negative stereotypes of Jews as insolent, greedy, usurer, and understandable tensions between creditors, typically Jews, and debtors, typically Christians, added to the social, political, religious, and economic strains. Peasants who were forced to pay their taxes to the Jews could see them as personally taking their money, while unaware of those on whose behalf these Jews worked. So this is where all the problems started with Jews being big money lenders. Then the government took the money away and never gave it back.
Right. Yeah, I mean it was pretty. I mean, it was pretty widespread throughout Europe that basically the king needed money and he knew where to get it. He'd go and take it from the Jews because they didn't have the wherewithal to fight back for it. I mean, Longshanks was actually really famous for doing that. I mean, he stripped
Yeah,
the Jewish population before then he turned around and kicked them out.
true. Jews were also subject to a wide range of legal disabilities and restrictions throughout the Middle Ages, some of which lasted until the end of the 19th century. Even money lending and peddling were at times forbidden to them. The number of Jews permitted to reside in different places was limited. They were concentrated in ghettos and were not allowed to own land. They were subject to discriminatory taxes on entering cities or districts other than their own, and were forced to swear special Jewish oaths, and they suffered a variety of other measures. The Fourth Lateran Council of 1215 decreed that Jews and Muslims must wear distinguishing clothing. The most common such clothing was the Jewish hat, which
Right.
was already worn by many Jews as a self-identifying mark, but now often was made compulsory.
So before we get too much farther along, I forgot to do this at the beginning is to recognize those that are in our chat room. We have Henry Weber, who is signed in under his wife's account, Gladys. Donald Willinger, Simon Marshall. Marshall, your birthday is yesterday or something like that. Anyway,
Happy birthday!
Richard, Marilyn Chernak, Marilyn who comes here and just waits for me to massacre Old French. And let's see, and we have Rabbi Craig Wyckoff, and did I say Richard? I think I said Richard. And
Yeah.
those who are watching in the background. Okay, just catching up on the. Yeah, Rabbi Wyckoff puts in, they were forced into money lending. Yeah, and they had ready money in the form of diamonds, as they used diamonds as they were kicked out of various countries, and diamonds were easy to That's true. That is very true. Diamonds are very easy to transport, and they're very easy to hide. So
Well, you take a look at Belgium, take a look at
yeah,
47th Street in New York. And it's strange that most people are not aware that there's no such thing as when you do a diamond deal, there's no such thing as a contract. Everything
right.
is done by a handshake.
Yeah, yeah. Even when buying large amounts.
Oh, millions.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard of that from Amsterdam.
Well, as a Jew, if you give somebody a hand, you're not supposed to break the promise.
Right.
It's law.
Well, not to mention it would basically destroy your business if you went back on it.
True
Marshall's
enough.
birthday is April 8th, so we got 3 more days. Okay, so
For what?
Marshall's birthday.
Well, let's say happy birthday before, so we're the
Yep.
first ones to say so.
Well, too late because Zeta already sang to him on Shabbat Erev Shabbat. Okay. So anyway, yeah.
Any questions?
No,
What
just
about the other rabbi? Any comments? Anything to add?
well, he was the one that made the comment about the diamonds and stuff. Yeah, the diamond merchant. Colleen says diamond merchants have their own private banks now.
True.
Which makes
Well,
sense.
New York is the biggest diamond dealer. Belgium, Antwerp, and Israel are considered the two best cutting of diamonds. So
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah.
got basically the business locked.
Yeah, Amsterdam used to be the big diamond center.
Yes,
Is it
but
still?
no, Antwerp
Antwerp.
in Belgium. Famous for cutting
Chocolate.
the blue diamond. You know, it
Oh,
gives you
no.
that perfect color diamond.
Ah, okay.
A friend of mine that left Romania, we left for Canada, and he went to Belgium, and he became one of the better diamond cutters in Belgium. And
Ah,
then he moved to Israel, lost contact. Anyways, along with the Jewish head, the yellow badge
yeah.
Jews were forced to wear can be seen on people's clothing. The Jewish badge was introduced in some places. It could be a colored piece of cloth in the shape of a circle, strip in the tablets of the law in England, and it was sewn onto the clothes. Also, special colors of robe were specified. Implementation was in the hands of the local rulers, but by the following century, laws had been enacted covering most of Europe. In many localities, members of the medieval society wore badges to distinguish their social status. Some badges, such as those worn by guild members, were prestigious, while others were worn by ostracized outcasts, such as lepers, reformed heretics, and prostitutes. As with all sumptuary laws, the degree to which these laws were followed and enforced varied greatly sometimes. Jews sought to evade these badges by paying what amounted to bribes in the form of temporary exemptions to kings, which were revoked and repaid for whenever the king needed to raise funds, like you said.
Yeah.
By the end of the Middle Ages, the hat seemed to have become rare, but the badges lasted longer and remained in some places until the 18th century. The Crusades were a series of military campaigns sanctioned by the papacy in Rome, which took place from the end of the 11th century until the 13th century. They began as endeavors to recapture Jerusalem from the Muslims, but developed into territorial wars. The People's Crusade that accompanied the First Crusade that attacked Jewish communities in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
France, England, and killed many of the Jews. Entire communities like those in Treves, Speyer, Worms, Mainz, and Cologne were murdered by the armed mobs. About 12,000 Jews are said to have perished in the Rhineland cities alone between May and July of 1096. Before the Crusades, the Jews had practically a monopoly on trade in Eastern products. But the closer connection between Europe and the East, brought about by the Crusades, raised up a class of Christians, merchants, traders, and from this time onwards, restrictions on the sale of goods by Jews became frequent. The religious zeal fomented by the Crusades at times burned as fiercely against Jews as against Muslims. Although attempts were made by bishops during the First Crusade and by the papacy during the Second Crusade to stop Jews from being attacked, both economically and socially, the Crusades were disastrous for European Jews. They prepared the way for the anti-Jewish legislation of Pope Innocent III.
Yeah. Colleen says, Crusaders herded us into wooden shoes and burned us alive. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that I was reading. I can't remember what the book was. It was talking about during that period when they were marching through Europe to head to the Holy Land, and they you know the comment by the leadership was, you know, well, we're going to the Holy Land. Why are we leaving all these Jews here? Let's kill the Jews as long as we're going. You know.
The Jewish defenders of Jerusalem retreated to their synagogues to prepare for death. Once the Crusaders had breached the outer walls of the city during the siege of 1099, the Chronicle of Ibn al-Qalanisi states that the building was set on fire while the Jews were still inside. The Crusaders were supposedly reported as hoisting up their shields and singing, Christ, we adore thee, while they encircled the burning building. Following the siege, Jews were captured from the Dome of the Rock, along with native Christians, were made to clean the city or being slain. Numerous Jews and their holy books, including the Aleppo Codex, were held ransom by Raymond of Toulouse. The Karaite Jewish community of Ashkelon reached out to them in Alexandria to first pay for the holy books and then rescued pockets of Jews over several months. All that could be ransomed were liberated by the summer of 1100. The few who could not be rescued were either converted to Christianity or killed. Any comments? No? Questions? No?
No, no. It's
In the count, I'm sorry?
I was gonna say it's amazing that this time frame that we're talking about. I mean, Islam is not very old at that point.
No.
I mean, it's only been I mean, Islam was basically founded in what 670 something.
Yes.
Or might as well round it out and say 700. And this is stuff that's been going on with the Muslims since 1,000.
Well,
Just a couple of 100 years.
yeah. Well, the Muslims are there are two sects, the Sunnis and the Shiites.
Right.
But they've been killing each other for thousands and thousands of years. Why?
Well, it's a
They're
different.
both they're both Muslims.
Yeah, but it's a difference in the way they interpret the Quran, isn't it?
No,
Or is it in
the
the
Shiites
dissent?
say our God is Muhammad.
Ah,
The Sunnis say no, it's not Muhammad, it's Allah. So they make the difference, but his true name was Muhammad Allah. It was one name, but yet they separated the two names, and they've been killing each other, brothers and fathers, and
yeah.
just because of the name. In the county of Toulouse in southern France, toleration and favor shown to Jews was one of the main complaints of the Roman Church against the Counts of Toulouse at the beginning of the 13th century. Organized and official persecution of the Jews became a normal feature of life in southern France. Only after the Albigensian Crusade it was the only then when the church became powerful enough to insist that measures of discrimination be applied. In 1209, stripped of the waist and barefoot, Raymond VI of Toulouse was obliged to swear that he would no longer allow Jews to hold public office. And in 1229, his son, Raymond VII, underwent a similar ceremony. So in 1236, Crusaders attacked the Jewish communities of Anjou and Poitou, killing 3,000 and baptizing 500. 2 years after the 1240 disputation of Paris, 24 wagons piled with handwritten Talmudic manuscripts were burned in the streets. Other disputations occurred in Spain, followed by the accusations against the Talmud. Amazing.
Yeah.
A 15th century German woodcut showing an alleged host of desecration. In the first panel, the hosts are stolen. In the second panel, the hosts bleed when they are pierced by a Jew. In the third panel, the Jews are arrested. And in the fourth panel, they are burned alive.
Well,
On many
they have
occasions, Jews were
similar
accused of. I'm sorry?
they have similar reliefs carved into Notre Dame, don't they?
There are many of those things carved into Notre Dame. I lived in Paris for close to 5 years, so I've seen it. On many occasions, Jews were accused of drinking the blood of
Right.
Christian children, in the mockery of the Christian Eucharist. According to the authors of these so-called blood libels, the procedure was for the alleged sacrifice was something like this: a child who has not yet reached puberty was kidnapped and then taken to a hidden place. The child would then be tortured by Jews, and a crowd would gather at the place of execution, in some accounts, the synagogue itself, and engage in mock tribunals to try the child. The child would be represented by the tribunal naked and tied and eventually condemned to death. In the end, the child would be crowned with thorns and tied or nailed to a wooden cross. The cross would be raised and the blood dripping from the child's wounds would be caught in bowls, or glasses and then drunk. Finally, the child would be killed with a thrust through the heart from a spear, sword, or a dagger. Its dead body would then be removed from the cross and concealed and disposed of. But in some instances, ritual of black magic would be performed on it. This method, with some variations, can be found in all alleged Christian descriptions of ritual murders done by Jews, which I don't believe would ever happen, but
Yeah, I mean those blood libels continue today. I mean they were actually there was a attack on a Jewish community in Chicago in the 1950s uh, during Easter week when they accused the Jews of kidnapping a Christian child and using the blood to make matzah. In the
uh,
1950s, that is not that old.
but matters not red.
Yeah,
Listen, in the town where I lived, I mean, we were children, and children were taught by Christians were told, that they can pull our payers, they can beat us up, and we couldn't do anything about it.
yeah. Now you were talking about you lived in Paris for about 5 years.
Yes.
Now that's where you first got your first taste of real water, isn't it?
When we arrived in Paris, my father had a friend that had luckily left Romania before the Second World War. So when he heard that we are in Paris, that we're coming and we are in Paris, we were invited to the first Friday night Shabbat dinner. Well, he was also from Romania. What do you have? You have gefilte fish, you have some chicken soup, and the lady put out a plate of fruit. Well, in Romania there is, apples, pears, plums, prunes. Well, my brother happened to to pick a banana. Never seen a banana, but he bit into it, so he put it down on the table, and the lady said, "Never seen a banana?" My brother said, "No." He says, "It tastes bitter." He says, "Yeah, but you need to peel it."
Yeah.
Then I asked the lady of the house, can I have some soda water? She says, "Well, we don't drink soda water, we drink water." I said, what's water? So she brought out a glass of water, and I took a sip and I put it down. She says, don't you like it? I said, well, I never drank water in my life. I was 14 years old. I never had water in my life because my area where I was born was volcanic and we had club soda from the fountains. Some fountains, the water was yellow, which was sulfur, which was delicious, but still carbonated. And some streets down, the fountain was red. That's where Dracula, the blood comes. The water was full of iron, and it was also delicious because of the iron and the club sodas. So I'm living in the Dominican Republic. It's been 10 years, and I still drink soda.
Yeah.
Just can't get used to water.
Yeah. Rabbi Craig says these rumors, I'm assuming he's referring to the blood libels, that these rumors started because of the kashrut laws and the fact that kosher butcher must drain the blood from the animal.
Yeah, they also thought because we drain it from the animal, we drink it.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, and don't forget, my town was up in the Carpathian Mountains. We were quite high, so snow was not unusual to be 4 or 5 feet deep. And we used to go to the river because we didn't have showers. You know, we used to go to the river. There was snow, so we would make a way to the river and put our clothes on the snow and jump into the river because the river was like 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
It was bubbly. Anyways, want to take a break or we
Oh,
continue?
what time are we got? No, we got about 15 minutes before we go
Okay.
to break.
Okay, so let's go. So now we go to England. The story of William of Norwich, which was in 1144, is often cited as the first known accusations of ritual murder against Jews. The Jews of Norwich, England, were accused of murder after a Christian boy, William, was found dead. It was claimed that the Jews had tortured and crucified him. The legend of William of Norwich became a cult, and the child acquired the status of a holy martyr. Little Saint Hugh of Lincoln in 1255 in the 13th century reputedly had his belly cut open and his entrails removed for some occult purpose, such as divination ritual. After being taken from the cross, Simon of Trent in 1475 in the 15th century was held over large bowls and all his blood could be collected. It was alleged, but there was no proof. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
there's some weird things that went on in those years. During the Middle Ages, such blood libels were directed against Jews in many parts of Europe. The believer of these false accusations reasoned that the Jews, having crucified Jesus, continued to thirst for pure and innocent blood at the expense of innocent Christian children. So, well, somebody has to prove to me that Jesus ever existed. So, nobody knows what happened when he was born until the age of 26, and all of a sudden he appeared as a rabbi. So that's to me, it's a far-fetched story, but that's only my opinion. No opinion?
No. So where are we at now in history?
We're going to go into France and the crucifixion, the death penalty, uh, in Paris during Philip Augustus,
Okay. So
Louis
what
IX,
about?
Philip IV, Charles IV, and Charles VI.
Okay.
So
So
you want to take
we're
a break
about
now, okay?
end of the 1400s, beginning of the 1500s.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Jews were also sometimes falsely accused of desecrating consecrated hosts in a reenactment of the crucifixion. This crime was known as host desecration and it carried the death penalty. The practice of expelling Jews The confiscation of their property and further ransom for their return was utilized to enrich the French crown during the 13th and the 14th century. The most notable of such expulsions were from Paris by Philip Augustus in 1182, from the whole of France by Louis IX in 1254, by Philip IV in 1306, by Charles IV in 1322, and Charles VI in 1394. So that went on for 200 years.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. Now, we were talking about the Inquisition last
Sorry?
week, and
Yeah.
a lot of people think that the Inquisition, just happened during, the medieval times. But, I mean, the Inquisition actually lasted into the 1800s.
Especially in Spain.
Well, in South America too, because the first Jews to come to New Amsterdam, which would become New England or would become New York, were actually fleeing from the Inquisition in South America.
Yep. Jewish expulsion inside England took place in Bury St. Edmunds in 1190, Newcastle in 1234, Wycombe in 1235, Southampton in 1236, Berkhamsted in 1242, Newbury in 1244. Simon of Montfort banished the Jews from Leicester in 1231. During the Second Barons' War in 1260, Simon of Montfort's followers ravaged the Jewries of London, Canterbury, Northampton, Winchester, and Cambridge. Worcester and Lincoln, in an effort to destroy the records of their debts to moneylenders. To finance his war against Wales in 1276, Edward I of England taxed Jewish moneylenders. When the moneylenders could no longer pay the tax, they were accused of disloyalty. Already restricted to a limited number of occupations, Edward abolished their privilege to lend money, restricted their movements and activities, and forced Jews to wear a yellow patch. The heads of the Jewish household were then arrested, with over 300 being taken to the Tower of London and executed. Others were killed in their homes. All the Jews were banished from the country in 1290, when it was possible that hundreds were killed or drowned while trying to leave the country. All the money and the property of these disposed Jews were confiscated, and no Jews were known to be in England thereafter until 55, when Oliver Cromwell reversed the policy. Wow.
Yeah. Lord High Protector of the realm.
Okay, let's take a break now.
Okay, let's take a break. I'm going to mute you for the moment. And okay. It won't hurt, I promise. Okay, so we're going to take our break, our 6-minute break now, and when we return, we'll get more into a little bit further down the road in history on anti-Semitism. Hang on, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies Everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. Okay, so the subject that we are discussing this evening is continuing on with anti-Semitism with yours truly and Rabbi Ancel. Let's bring Rabbi Ancel back on here. Okay, so we're back.
I have a question before I start again.
Okay.
Is there anybody in the crowd that would like for us to discuss something different or something of interest to them?
Yeah, we'll have to see what comes up in the chat room. I was trying during the break. I was trying to find a book that I have. It was written by, and the name escapes me right now. But he was one of the cartoons, one of the comic strip artists from the golden and the silver age of comic books, and he did a book called The Protocols of Zion, which actually traces where that the protocols actually originated, which is really kind of odd because actually it came from France. It had absolutely nothing to do with Jews. It had to do with the French monarchy. It was called, let me see if I can remember. It was written by Maurice somebody. It was a pantomime. It was about, it was called Conversations in Hell between Montesquieu and somebody else. And it was a slam piece against the French aristocracy. At that point, a Russian agent of the Tsar, very anti-Semitic person called Glavinsky, if I'm remembering correctly, had a copy of the manuscript, brought it back to Russia, rewrote it, and made it all about the Jews, and then presented it to the Tsar as this book of this secret cabal of Jews trying to run the world or trying to take over the world. It's a fascinating book, and I'll find it and I'll bring it on next week because I highly recommend it if you really want to know what the whole history, the whole sordid history, right up into the present day of the Protocols of Zion and how it's actually been tried in various European courts and over 100 times and found to be a complete fraud. Then I think you would enjoy this book very much. So I'm just waiting to see if anybody's got. Marilyn says she's thinking. Okay. So
What did she
anyway,
say?
pardon?
What did Meryl say?
She said she's thinking.
Oh, what to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Germany, which was part of the Holy Roman Empire, persecutions and formal expulsions of the Jews were liable to occur at intervals, although it should be said that this was also the case for other minority communities, whether religious or ethnic. There were particular outbursts of righteous persecutions in the Rhineland massacres in 1096, accompanying the led up to the First Crusade, many involving the Crusaders as they traveled far east. There were many local expulsions from cities by local rulers and the city councils. The Holy Roman Emperor generally tried to restrain persecutions, if only for economic reason, but he was often unable to exert much influence. As late as 1519, the imperial city of Regensburg took the advantage of the recent death of Emperor Maximilian I to expel its 500 Jews. At this period, the rulers of the eastern edges of Europe, in Poland, Lithuania, and Hungary, were often receptive to Jewish settlements, and many Jews moved to these regions. Hundreds of Jewish communities were destroyed by violence during the ravages of the Black Death, particularly in the Iberian Peninsula and in the Germanic Empire. In Provence, 40 Jews were burned in Toulon as quickly as the outbreak as April of 1348. Never mind that the Jews were not immune from the ravages of the plague. They were tortured until they confessed to crimes that they could not possibly have committed. In one such case, a man named Agimed was coerced to say that Rabbi Peyret of Chambéry, near Geneva, had ordered him to poison the wells in Venice, Toulouse, and elsewhere. In the aftermath of Agimed's confession, the Jews of Strasbourg were burned alive on February the 4th, 1549. Can you imagine that? In the Catholic kingdoms of late medieval and early modern Spain, oppressive policies and attitudes led many Jews to embrace Christianity. Such Jews were known as conversos or marranos. That's where the word comes.
Right.
Suspicious that they might still secretly adhere to the Judaism led Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile to institute the Spanish Inquisition. The Inquisition used torture to elicit confessions and deliver judgments at public ceremonials known as autos de fe, before they gave their victims over to the secular authorities for punishment. Under this dispensation, some 30,000 were condemned to death and executed by burned alive. Wow. In 1492. Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile issued an edict of expulsion of Jews from Spain, giving Jews 4 months to either convert to Christianity or leave the country. Some 165,000 Jews immigrated and some 50,000 Jews converted to Christianity. The same year, the order of expulsion arrived in Sicily and Sardinia, belonging to Spain. Wow. So now the Spanish government are saying whoever has Spanish roots can get their passports back. Big change after they killed so many Jews.
Yeah. Now, didn't they during the expulsion? Didn't a large percentage of them go to Portugal?
I'm just about to start.
Oh, okay.
Portugal followed suit in December of 1496. However, those expelled could only leave the country in ships specified by the king. When those who chose to leave the country arrived at the port of Lisbon, they were met by clerics and soldiers who used force, coercion, and promised to baptize them and prevent them from leaving the country. This episode technically ended the presence of Jews in Portugal. Afterwards, all converted Jews and their descendants would be referred to as new Christians or conversos. And those who were rumored to practice crypto-Judaism were labeled as Marranos. They were given a grace period of 30 years during which no inquiry into their faith would be allowed. This period was later extended until year of 1534. However, a popular riot in 1506 resulted in the death of up to 4,000 or 5,000 Jews and the execution of the leaders of the riot by King Manuel. Those labeled as new Christians were under the surveillance of the Portuguese Inquisition from 1536 till 1821.
Yeah, the Inquisition lasted quite a long time. People don't realize that they that it lasted that long.
Well, almost 500 years.
Yeah.
And so, Jewish refugees from Spain and Portugal, known as Sephardi Jews, which you are one of them,
Yes.
from the Hebrew word for Spain,
Right.
fled to North Africa, Turkey, and Palestine within the Ottoman Empire, and to countries in Europe, which was Holland, France, and Italy. Within the Ottoman Empire, Jews could openly practice their religion. Amsterdam in Holland also became a focus for settlement by persecuted Jews from many lands and succeeding centuries. And the Papal States, Jews were forced to live in ghettos and subjected to several restrictions, a part of the Cum Nimis Absurdum of 1555. So you were right. So a lot of Holland was one of the countries who was a little bit easier on the Jews.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, Marrano means what?
Morano Jews were
No, what does the word
Jews.
mean?
Sorry?
What does the word mean?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I was always told that Marrano meant pig.
You're breaking up.
No, I'm not. I'm right here. I'm fine. No, I had always heard that Marrano meant pig.
I still can't hear you.
So sounds like a me problem. No, I said
So
I'd always heard that Marrano meant pig. Chazer?
okay. So you said what is Morano?
Right. As he quickly Googles it. Okay, so Colleen says Marrano means pig.
Means what?
Pig.
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 In Spanish?
That's what she says. That's why I was asking the question. What does Marrano
No.
actually mean?
In Spanish, a pig is cerdo.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
I'll find out for the next session.
Okay.
Okay, anyways. Martin Luther, a Lutheran Augustinian friar, excommunicated by the papacy for heresy, and an ecclesiastical reformer whose teaching inspired the Reformation, wrote antagonistically about Jews. And his pamphlet on the Jews and their lies, written in 1543, he portrays the Jews in extremely harsh terms.
Okay, so we need
And he
we need to
provides
we need to
detailed recommendations for
can
a
we
pogrom
we need
against
to
them,
we need to
calling for their
clarify a
permanent
little on that.
oppression and expulsion. Sorry?
So we need to clarify a little bit about Luther. Okay, because originally he was favorably disposed
I
towards
can't
the
hear you.
I said originally he was favorably disposed towards the Jews, and it wasn't until the Jews completely rejected
No
what he would.
sound.
Pardon? Are you still there? You still with us? Well, while we wait, that he was favorably disposed towards the Jews until he realized he could not get them to convert to his brand of Christianity, and that's when he became very, very
You're breaking
anti-Semitic.
up.
No, I'm not. I'm fine. So there's much like Muhammad. Muhammad was very
Uh-huh.
favorably disposed towards the Jews until the Jews basically kicked him out and said, they would not accept his his Quran, his his what he was saying, that he was, he had been given special new lessons and stuff like that from Gabriel, and that the Jews had it wrong and stuff like that, and they basically kicked him out, and hence why the first place that he attacked was Medina, which was where the Jews basically kicked him out. Um, like I said, he was favorably disposed towards them until he
Sound is gone
realized he could
again.
not get them to convert, and then that's when all the anti-Semitic.
Yeah, but if anybody reads the Quran, it's basically the book of death.
Yeah, yeah, because it's all about death.
Yeah. So at one point he writes, "We are at fault in not slaying them," a passage that may be termed the first work of modern anti-Semitism and a giant step forward on the road to the famous Holocaust. Luther's harsh comment about the Jews were also seen by many as a continuation of medieval Christian anti-Semitism. Muslow and Pupkin asserted that the anti-Semitism of the early modern period was even worse than that of the Middle Ages. And nowhere was this more obvious than in those areas which roughly encompasses the modern-day Germany, especially among Lutherans. In his final sermon shortly before his death, however, Luther preached, "We want to treat them with Christian love and to pray for them so they might become converted and would be received by the Lord." Of course.
Right, that's all I was saying. He was favorably disposed
Are you
until.
there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, because I'm losing you.
Oh, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sitting right here.
You're still there, but I can't hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Simon of Trent was a boy from the city of Trento, Italy, who was found dead at the age of 2 in 1475, having allegedly been kidnapped, mutilated, and drained of blood. His disappearance was blamed on the leaders of the city's Jewish community, based on confessions extracted under torture, in a case that fueled the rampant anti-Semitism of the time. Simon was regarded as a saint and was canonized by Pope Sixtus V in 1588. During the 1614 Fettmilch uprising, mob led by Vincenz Fettmilch looted the Jewish ghetto of Frankfurt, expelling Jews from the city. 2 years later, Emperor Matthias executed Fettmilch and made the Jews return to the city under protection by imperial soldiers. So now we're getting into the 17th century. Peter Stuyvesant, the last Dutch Director General of the colony of New Amsterdam, later New York City, sought to bolster the position of the Dutch Reformed Church by trying to stem the religious influence of Jews, Lutherans, Catholics, and Quakers. He stated that the Jews were deceitful and very repugnant, and hateful enemies and blasphemers of the name of Christ. However, religious plurality was already a cultural tradition and a legal obligation of New Amsterdam and in the New Netherlands. and
Yeah,
his
he actually,
superiors at the
he,
Dutch West India Company in Amsterdam overruled him.
right, yeah, he actually had written back to Amsterdam to say, we need to expel the Jews from here, and they basically wrote
Yep.
back and said, no, no, you won't. Actually,
During the mid to
they
late
actually had to come
17th
down on it pretty
century,
hard.
the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was devastated by several conflicts in which the Commonwealth lost over a third of its population, over 3 million people. The decrease of the Jewish population during that period is estimated at 100 to 200,000, including emigration, deaths from disease, and captivity in the Ottoman Empire. These conflicts began in 1648 when Bohdan Khmelnytsky instigated the Khmelnytsky uprising against the Polish aristocracy and the Jews who administered their estates. Khmelnytsky Cossacks massacred tens of thousands of Jews in the eastern and southern areas of the controlled now Ukraine. This persecution led many Jews to pin their hopes on a man called Sabbatai Zevi, who emerged in the Ottoman Empire at this time and proclaimed himself Messiah 1665. However, his later conversion to Islam dashed these hopes and led many Jews to discredit the traditional belief in the coming of the Messiah as the hope of salvation. In the Zaydi Imamate of Yemen, Jews were also singled out for discrimination in the 17th century, which culminated in the general expulsion of all Jews from places in Yemen to the arid coastal plain of Tihama, and which became known as the Mwaza exile. In many European countries in the 18th century, which is the age of enlightenment, saw the dismantling of archaic corporate hierarchy forms of society in favor of individual equality of citizens before the law. How this new state of affairs would affect previously autonomous, though subordinate, Jewish communities became known as the Jewish question. In many countries, and hence civil rights were gradually extended to the Jews, though often only in a partial form, and on a condition that the Jews abandon their aspects of their previous identity in favor of integration, assimilation with the dominant society. According to Arnold Agues, Voltaire's letters of philosophy, to name but a few of his better known works, are saturated with comments on Jews and Judaism, and the vast majority are negative. There is no question but that Voltaire, particularly in his latter years, nursed a violent hatred of the Jews, and is equally certain that his animosity did have a considerable impact on public opinion in France. 30 of the 118 articles by Voltaire concern Jews and describe them as consistently negative in negative ways. Wow. In 1744, Frederick II of Prussia limited the number of Jews allowed to live in Breslau to only 10 so-called protected Jewish families, and encouraged a similar practice in other Prussian cities. In 1750, he issued the General Privilegium in Reglement für die Judenschaft, forcing the protected Jews to either abstain from marriage or leave Berlin. In the same year, the Archduke of Austria, Archduchess of Austria, Maria Theresa, ordered Jews out of Bohemia, but soon reversed her position on condition that they pay for their readmission every 10 years. This was known as Malkigeld, Queen's money. In 1752, she introduced a law limiting each Jewish family to one son. And in 1782, Joseph II abolished most of these practices on the condition that Yiddish and Hebrew were eliminated from public records and that the judicial autonomy was annulled. And in 1768, thousands of Jews were killed by Cossacks during the massacre of Uman in the Kingdom of Poland.
Hence why Rabbi Nachman of Breslov is buried there.
Yep. In accordance with the anti-Jewish precepts of Russian Orthodox Church, Russia's discriminatory policy toward Jews intensified when the partition of Poland in the 18th century resulted, for the first time in Russian history, in the possession of land with a large population of Jews. This land was designated as Pale of Settlement, from which Jews were forbidden to migrate into the interior of Russia. In 1772, the Empress of Russia, Catherine II, forced the Jews of the Pale Settlement to stay in their shtetls and forbade them from returning to the towns that they occupied before the partition of Poland. Following legislation supporting the equality of French Jews and other citizens during the French Revolution, similar laws promoting Jewish emancipation were enacted in the early 19th century, and those parts of Europe over which France had influence. The old laws restricting the ghettos, as well as the many laws limiting their property rights and rights of worship and occupation, were rescinded. Despite this, traditional discrimination and hostility to Jews on religious grounds persisted and was supplemented by a racial antisemitism encouraged by the work of racial theorists such as Royalist Joseph Arthur de Gobineau, and particularly his essay on the inequality of the human races in the year of 1853 to 1855. Nationalist agendas based on ethnicity, known as ethno-nationalism, usually exclude the Jews from the national community as an alien race. Allied to this were theories of social Darwinism, which stressed a putative conflict between higher and lower races of human beings. Such theories, usually posited by white Europeans, advocated the superiority of white Aryans to Semitic Jews. So we have the beginning. We have the beginning of Nazism.
Yeah, eugenics.
The counter-revolutionary Catholic royalist Louis de Bonald stands out among the earliest figures to explicitly call for the reversal of Jewish emancipation in the wake of the French Revolution. Bonald's attacks on the Jews are likely to have influenced Napoleon's decision to limit the civil rights of Alsatian Jews. Bonald's article, Sur les Juifs, in 1806, was one of the most venomous screeds of its era and furnished a paradigm which combined anti-liberalism, traditional Christian anti-Semitism, and the identification of Jews with bankers and finance capital, which would in turn influence many subsequent right-wing reactionaries, such as Roger Bourgeois de Mousseau, Charles Maurras, and Edmond Drummond, nationalists such as Maurice Barré and Paulo Orano, and anti-Semitic socialists such as Alphonse Toussaint. Bonald furthermore declared that the Jews were an alien people, a state within a state, and should be forced to wear distinctive marks to more easily identify them and discriminate against them. Some bad people are in this world, eh?
Yeah, it's funny how they always go back to the distinctive mark.
Yep. In the 1840s, the popular counter-revolutionary Catholic journalist Louis Veuillot propagated Bonald's arguments against the Jewish financial aristocracy along with vicious attacks against the Talmud and the Jews as a deicidal people driven by hatred to enslave Christians. Gougenot, he wrote the journal Juif, les Judaïsmes et la Judaïsme des peuples chrétiens in 1869, has been called the Bible of modern anti-Semitism and was translated into German by Nazi ideologue Alfred Rosenberg. In Italy, the Jesuit priest Antonio Bresciani, highly popular novel in 1850, the novel Le Hebreo de Verona, the Jews of Verona, shaped religious anti-Semitism for decades and did his work for La Civiltà Cattolica, which helped to launch the Papal States. Jews were baptized involuntarily, and even when such baptisms were illegal, forced to practice the Christian religion. In some cases, the state separated them from their families, of which the Edgardo Mortara account is one of the most widely publicized instances of acrimony between Catholics and Jews in the second half of the 19th century. Civil rights granted to Jews in Germany following the occupation of the country by the French under Napoleon were rescinded after his defeat. Pleas to retain them by the diplomats at the Congress of Vienna Peace Conference in 1814 were unsuccessful, and in 1819 German Jews were attacked in the Hep Hep riots. Full Jewish emancipation was not granted in Germany until 1871, when the country was united under the Hohenzollern dynasty.
Yeah, that
In
didn't
his
last long.
1843 essay on the Jewish question, Karl Marx said, "The God of Judaism is money," and accused the Jews of corrupting Christians. In 1850, German composer Richard Wagner published Das Judentum in their music, Jewishness and music, under pseudonym in Neue for Music. The essay began as an attack on Jewish composers, particularly Wagner's contemporation of Felix Mendelssohn and Giacomo Meyerbeer, but expanded the accused Jewish influence more widely of being harmful to the alien element in German culture. The term antisemitism was coined by the German agitator and publicist Wilhelm Marr in 1879, and that year Marr founded the Anti-Semite League and published a book called Victory of the Victory of Jewry in Germany. The late 1870s saw the growth of anti-Semite political parties in Germany. These included the Christian Social Party, founded in 1878 by Adolf Stocker, and the Lutheran chaplain to the Kaiser, Wilhelm I, as well as the German Social Anti-Semitic Party and the Anti-Semitic People's Party. However, they did not enjoy mass electoral support at their peak in 1907, had only 16 deputies out of a total of 397 in Parliament.
Okay, so Rabbi Craig gave us a definition of Marano.
Okay.
So Marano means forbidden.
Okay.
So the
I
Marano,
accept that, but not fake.
yeah. Isn't a Falasha Jews? Isn't that what they refer to as pig Jews?
Yeah, but they also call the Marano Jews from South America.
Yeah.
Between 1881 and 1920, approximately 3 million Ashkenazi Jews from Eastern Europe migrated to America, many of them fleeing the pogroms and the difficult economic conditions which were widespread in much of Eastern Europe during that time.
Okay,
Pogroms in Eastern Europe,
so
particularly
hang on,
Russia,
hang on.
prompted the wave. Sorry?
I said, hang on, because I want to stop here because I want to go in more depth into the 20th century. So when we get together next week, we'll pick up where you left off.
Okay.
And then we'll get into this because at this point, you know, we have records. We know a lot more about what was going on in the 1900s and as opposed to like what was going on in the 16, 15, and 1400s. Because we actually got film records, we've got historical records and stuff like that. So I want to spend a little more time next week on specifically the 20th century.
Good enough with me?
Okay, well,
I hope everybody enjoyed tonight.
Well, I don't know if
If you have
enjoy
any
is
questions,
really the
or
right term.
Marilyn, if you want to discuss something else, just let me know. Or is Marilyn still thinking about it?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so she said something about the protocols of the elders of
Which
Zion.
is fine.
I think
I
we'll cover
mean,
that next week.
we're not restricted to time.
Okay, well let me put you on mute, and then we will close out the show. Stay on the line there, Rabbi. Okay, so yes, next week we'll get into anti-Semitism in the 20th century, and we'll delve a little more in depth, you know, because we covered a lot of ground tonight. We covered about 600 years tonight, so I want to make sure that we spend a significant time on the 20th century because I mean it's closer to us in history, and we have a lot more records. So don't forget that Wednesday night is the Torah study in depth with Rashi and myself, and then Friday night is Kabbalat and Ma'ariv Shabbat service, and then Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. is Shachrit and Musaf. Until then, everyone, Laila Tov.